You know that feeling, right? That really powerful vision you've got inside, an idea that feels so big, so you, and then you share it. And instead of, helpful feedback, you get skepticism, maybe pity, or sometimes just people laugh.
Oh, yeah. That's almost like a rite of passage, isn't it? If you've got this vision and people are dismissing it, look, you're actually in exactly the right place. That resistance, it's not really a roadblock. It's more like a sign that confirms just how big your goal really is.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. This is for you, the listener, who gets that self-belief isn't just some, nice idea. It's a skill, something you can actually build. We're going deep into how you build that rock-solid confidence, the kind that comes from inside, especially when nobody outside is cheering you on. We're moving past the fluffy stuff into real practical strategies from the research.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the big trap. The sources we looked at, especially the behavioral studies, show most people run on what we're calling borrowed confidence.
Borrowed confidence. Yeah, that makes sense. It's shaky, right? Because it depends completely on outside stuff, like applause, getting that first win, a good review at work, or just, people liking you. But the moment that praise dries up or things get tough, poof, it vanishes. Because it wasn't really yours to begin with.
Exactly. Compare that to what we're aiming for today. Built confidence. This is the permanent kind, the structural kind. And to really get why we have to build it, think about history. Think about big innovations. The sources are really clear on this. Doubters aren't the enemy. They're actually part of the process. They force you to rely on yourself.
We see it over and over. Like Elon Musk, right? When he started talking about reusable rockets, the whole aerospace industry basically laughed. It sounded crazy, financial, impossible. But that dismissal, it didn't stop him. It kind of forced that early work into a bubble, protected from all the outside opinions.
Or Steve Jobs. Remember, 1,000 songs in your pocket. To most people back then, with their bulky CD players, it just sounded like fantasy, like pure science fiction. The doubt was based on what seemed possible then, but his belief wasn't just in the product. It was in the ability to figure out the really hard engineering stuff.
So the big takeaway here, for you listening, is maybe the most freeing thing. You're not actually supposed to be believed in right at the start, that disbelief. Consider it your initial training. It just proves your idea is big enough that you have to develop your own belief, funded by your own effort. You don't wait for permission to believe. You earn it through action.
And understanding that difference, well, it changes the whole game. Skepticism just becomes the first test of your own certainty.
Okay, let's dig into that mindset shift. The brutal truth, like you said, is no one's riding in on a white horse to tell you your idea is amazing first. But as we just discussed, that's actually good news. Being doubted isn't failure. It's like a clean slate, psychologically speaking.
It forces this really crucial internal pivot. You have to shift from looking outwards for validation to looking inwards. The data, the behavioral science, it strongly suggests you have to stop waiting for that approval. Like immediately. Stop announcing your dreams before they're ready. And maybe most importantly, stop draining your energy trying to explain this big complex vision to, what the sources call small minds.
Yeah, trying to convert skeptics. It's often just a huge time suck, isn't it? It burns through your resources, exposes your idea when it's still vulnerable. That clean slate forces the focus inward. Stop trying to make them see it. Start making yourself move. That switch from seeking validation to just relentless action, that's where built confidence really begins.
So how do you do that? The sources give some very specific private strategies. The first one is about establishing the private vision. And the instruction is simple, almost like a ritual. Write down your big goals, your detailed plans with absolute non-negotiables. But do it in private.
And you mean really private, not for your blog, not a tweet, not even telling your best friend every single detail right away. It's like a secret contract with your future self. There's this great analogy in the source material about this silence. Your vision is like a seed. Where does the seed grow best? Underground, in the dark, just fueled by its own internal code.
Exactly. The world. They only see the flower when it blooms, the success, the final thing. They never see all that quiet, painstaking work the roots do in the darkness. If you share it too soon, you can trigger this thing called social reality. People congratulate you, your brain gets a little hit of accomplishment, and it actually steals the drive you need for the real hard work.
Oh, that's a key insight. Getting that praise too early can actually kill your motivation. Okay, so you've made the private contract. What's next? The second strategy, maybe the most critical, is the daily practice of the belief journal.
Right. This is where you start gathering the evidence, the hard, quantifiable proof you need for that permanent belief. It's about actively fighting your own cognitive biases. It's a nightly thing designed to push back against that negative self-talk that creeps in when you're working alone, without cheerleaders maybe hitting setbacks.
And the idea is to consciously track your growth, right? The proof of your effort. That's what turns into belief, even if the big results haven't shown up yet. The sources lay out 3 specific prompts for this nightly journal. Let's break down why each one is so effective.
Okay, first one thing you did today that made you proud. And this isn't about huge successes, it's about effort. Integrity. Did you keep your word to yourself? Did you push through when you felt tired? This consciously reinforces a positive identity in your mind. It helps override frustration from maybe slow progress.
The second prompt. This one feels powerful for building courage. One fear you faced, even if it was small. This is so important because facing fear, it's like building muscle memory for courage. Almost like cognitive exposure therapy, right? If you write down, I finally sent that tough email, or I spoke up in that meeting, you're collecting proof, hard evidence of your own bravery. You're showing yourself with documented action that fear doesn't have to stop you.
Exactly. And the third prompt, one area you will improve tomorrow. This keeps you moving forward. It stops you from getting complacent because complacency is a confidence killer. It forces you to think tactically. Plan the next small step. So your day doesn't end feeling stuck. It ends with a sense of, okay, here's what's next, moving forward.
And when you connect all this back, the analysis is fascinating. The disbelief from other people, it really just tests how much you believe your own truth. If they don't get it, it's your signal. Time to go quiet, build those roots, and only come out when your actions, your results, are loud enough to drown out that early noise.
All right, so we've talked about building in silence, focusing on action. Now let's shift to the mental game. The inner architecture, confidence. People often think it's just, a personality trait. Like some people are just born confident. But the sources really push back on that. Confidence isn't a gift you're given. It's a neural habit.
That changes everything, doesn't it?
No.
Framing it as a habit. It takes the mystery out of it. It means, just like learning French or coding, you can literally train your brain to see yourself differently, to respond differently. It's neuroplasticity, right? The brain changing based on repetition.
Precisely. And if confidence is a habit, then the most powerful tool we have for training it is our internal dialogue, our self-talk. Cognitive restructuring studies show this clearly. If you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I always fail, I don't deserve this, you are literally wiring your brain for insecurity. You're building neural pathways for self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So the job of the inner architect is to find that negative script and actively, aggressively flip it. Build a new protective pathway.
Okay, so how do we actually start rewriting that script? The first technique is called mirror talk. The idea is every day you stand in front of a mirror and say 3 specific things out loud, and you have to say them with conviction.
Yeah, the conviction is key. Your subconscious responds much more to emotion and repetition than just, logical statements. And crucially, these can't be those vague, pie-in-the-sky affirmations like, I am abundant. They need to be real, believable statements. But they also need to stretch you a bit cognitively. Challenge the negative wiring without sounding totally ridiculous to yourself.
Right. Let's go through the 3 specific ones the sources recommend. First one deals with the fact that growth is messy. I'm still learning, but I'm better than yesterday. It acknowledges reality, still learning, but immediately pivots to progress, better than yesterday. It kind of disarms the inner critic.
The second one directly tackles that external doubt we talked about. I may be doubted now, but I'm building something no one understands yet. This reframes that feeling of being misunderstood.
Yeah.
It turns it into proof of innovation almost. It gives purpose to that lonely early phase, strengthening your resolve.
And the third one is maybe the most foundational. I trust myself to figure things out. Simple, but powerful. It's your internal safety net. It means setbacks aren't final. Failure is just data because you believe in your ability to adapt and learn. Saying those 3 every morning with real feeling, you're literally starting to change your brain chemistry around confidence.
Next up is reprogramming journaling. This is like your real-time defense system against the inner critic. You catch those negative thoughts as they happen. The moment one pops up, you write it down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. Then immediately you rewrite it using techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay, give us an example, like that classic one. Old thought, I always mess up, I'm just incompetent. That word always is killer. So the reframe needs to be accurate but empowering. Something like, okay, I sometimes make mistakes, but I learn faster every time, and I'm committed to getting better. See how that shifts it from beating yourself up to focusing on learning and commitment?
Exactly. Then we get into some more advanced identity stuff. Micro-visualization. This is something you do right before sleep. You don't just visualize the big win. You visualize the confident version of you achieving it. How do they move? How do they talk? How do they make decisions?
So it's like rehearsing the person you want to be, not just the outcome. And doing it before sleep is strategic, right? Because your brain is kind of consolidating information then. You're feeding it this high confidence image right before it goes into that deep processing state. You're laying down the tracks for tomorrow.
Precisely. And the last technique here is the voice flip. This is where you kind of personify your inner critic. Treat it like someone separate from you. So when that voice attack says something like, "You're not good enough for this project," you don't just crumble, you answer it back, but like a firm, fair mentor would.
Not defensively, but assertively. Like, okay, if I'm not good enough yet, then I'll put in the work to get better. Watch me.
Yeah.
It totally changes the power dynamic inside your head. You become the leader, not the victim, of your own internal dialogue.
Now, before we move on, a huge warning flag here. Comparison. Comparison is the absolute killer of confidence. It dissolves instantly the second you start comparing your messy, behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's perfectly curated highlight reel, especially online.
Ugh, yes. And social media algorithms are practically built to make us compare ourselves, aren't they? They only show the shiny, finished product. You have to really internalize this mantra, not just as a nice thought, but as fact. You are not behind. You are under construction. Your timeline is yours alone. Comparing your construction site to someone else's finished skyscraper is just irrational self-sabotage.
Okay, we've got the mental game plan.
Yeah.
But it has to be grounded in action. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking. Most people have this backwards idea about confidence. They think, okay, well, when I get the big promotion or when I finally launch the business, then I'll feel confident.
Yeah.
But the research on self-efficacy, the sources we reviewed, they flip that completely.
Right. It's the other way around. Confidence doesn't magically appear after huge success. It comes directly from self-trust. And how do you build self-trust? Not through grand gestures, but through something really simple and consistent. Keeping the promises you make to yourself.
That is the absolute bedrock, the foundation of action. If you tell yourself, I'm going to spend 30 minutes working on that difficult proposal, and you actually sit down and do it, you send this incredibly powerful message to your subconscious. Hey, I can count on you. You follow through. That internal dependability, that feeling of, I do what I say I'll do, that's where real power starts. Doesn't matter yet if the proposal is perfect.
And the flip side is true too, right? If you promise yourself you'll wake up early to exercise and then you hit snooze 5 times, you're basically teaching your subconscious that your word means nothing. Each broken promise is like a little withdrawal from your confidence account. So the solution isn't making huge, impossible promises. It's about chasing micro wins.
Exactly. Micro wins. These are small, daily, non-negotiable actions. The key is they give you an immediate feeling of control and accomplishment. You're not doing them for external praise or rewards. The reward is internal, that feeling of competence, of discipline.
So what are some examples, like really practical things? Maybe doing 10 push-ups with good form every morning, reading just 5 pages of a challenging book, journaling for 10 focused minutes, or even just making your bed properly, like really focusing on doing that one small task well. These aren't trivial things. They're deliberate deposits of effort.
Think of each one as a confidence credit going into your internal bank account. They're small, yes, but they stack up. Pretty soon, you have this huge mental ledger proving, I did what I said I would do. And that makes you feel fundamentally capable, almost unshakable. There's a great definition from the sources. Confidence is simply consistency multiplied by self-respect.
Love that. Okay, but what about imposter syndrome? That feeling like you're a fraud, about to be found out, it still creeps in, even when you're doing the work. How do we fight that? This is where the proof folder comes in. It sounds really practical.
It is. It's a physical or digital folder designed specifically to fight that tendency our brains had to forget our successes and focus on failures.
Selective memory, right? So, you actively collect hard evidence of your growth. Save screenshots of positive emails. Write down fears you faced from your belief journal. Keep track of certifications, skills learned, complex projects you finished, even if they weren't perfect.
And the point is, when that wave of doubt hits, and you don't get into an argument with your feelings. You literally pull out the proof folder. You look at the facts. It shifts the debate from, I feel as a failure, to, here is the objective evidence of my progress.
You're arming yourself with your own history.
Exactly. And tying this whole action-based approach together is the 1% rule. It's super simple, but keeps you moving. The goal is just to get 1% better each day in some area you choose. Could be a skill, a habit, your mindset, anything.
It takes the pressure off needing huge leaps, right? It keeps your brain focused on growth, on forward motion, even if it's tiny. Just focus on that 1% improvement. Compound interest applies here too, doesn't it? Over 100 days, you're significantly better. But more importantly, your brain starts to believe that progress is just normal. What you do, it comes back to that core idea. You can't just think your way into confidence. You have to act your way into it. Action is the currency. Okay, so we're building the internal structure, we're taking action, but we need to protect it, right? Confidence, especially when it's new, feels fragile. And the sources are clear. It just cannot grow in a toxic environment. If you're constantly around people who mock you, doubt you, drain your energy, it doesn't matter how good your belief journal is, you'll constantly question yourself.
Absolutely. This calls for an environment detox. And the first step, often the hardest, is identifying the people who are actively hindering your growth. We call them the D team. Now, this doesn't always mean cutting people off completely, especially family, but you must set firm boundaries. You have to fiercely protect your focus and energy.
Let's break down these D team types the sources identify. First, the drainers. Who are they?
These are the energy vampires, right? They gossip, they're negative, they belittle your efforts, maybe to make themselves feel better. Being around them just pulls you down.
Exactly. Then you have the doubters. These are the chronic skeptics. They often frame their fear as just being realistic. They'll rarely celebrate your wins sincerely. Their first instinct is to point out the potential downside, question how long it will last. They fill the air with negative what-ifs.
And the third type? The distractors. These are the ones who want to keep you comfortable. They discourage risk, discourage change, because your growth might implicitly challenge their own lack of movement. They want you to stay put. You have to limit how much time and energy you give these dynamics.
And this detox isn't just about people. It absolutely extends to your digital world. You have to curate your online environment, your algorithms, like your mental health depends on it. Because frankly, it probably does. That means actively unfollowing accounts or people online that consistently make you feel inadequate or like you're falling behind. And instead, you intentionally build a virtual circle of believers.
Yeah.
Follow people, sources, peers who actually inspire you, who talk about the process, who celebrate effort. People whose content leaves you feeling energized and capable, not drained or less than. What you feed your mind matters.
Which leads us to another powerful tool, often misunderstood: solitude. We need to be clear. Solitude isn't the same as loneliness. Loneliness is feeling disconnected. Solitude is choosing to be alone for clarity, for focus. Confidence, especially the deep kind needed for big goals, often grows best in quiet spaces, away from the constant chatter.
Okay, so how do we practice that effectively? The sources suggest a specific routine, like 30 minutes a day of actual silence. No phone, no music, no podcasts. Just quiet. And use that time for journaling, planning, or maybe just asking yourself that really fundamental question: what do I truly want?
That dedicated quiet time, it lets your own thoughts surface, connects you back to your own core motivations without the filter of external noise and expectations. Helps ground your vision, makes it feel more real, more yours.
Finally, in this section, protecting your energy vocabulary. This is about the words you use. Words have power. They shape how you see things, what you attract. You have to be ruthless about cutting out scarcity language.
Yeah, stop saying things like, I can't afford that, I'm always broke, I'm so unlucky. That's victim language. It reinforces limitation. You need to consciously switch to strength language, the language of agency, of building. So instead of, I can't, maybe it's, I'm currently building the resources for that. Instead of, I'm broke, it's, I'm learning how to increase my income. Instead of, I'm unlucky, it's, I'm preparing myself for opportunities. You're literally speaking possibility into your reality, training your brain to look for solutions.
All right, this brings us to the final stage. This is where it gets really exciting. It's the point where confidence stops being just a set of things you do, and it starts becoming part of who you are. This is the identity shift. Your belief becomes so ingrained, it actually defines you.
And to make that shift happen intentionally, you first have to get crystal clear on the destination. You need to define in detail who is the most confident version of me. And this can't be vague. You need specifics.
So actually write it down. Like, what are their habits? What's their morning routine? How do they talk? What kind of boundaries do they enforce? How do they handle setbacks? What do they fundamentally believe about themselves? You're creating a blueprint for your future self. That's your target.
Exactly. Then comes the daily work of acting as if, and again, this isn't fake it till you make it in a superficial way. It's about consciously aligning your small daily actions today with the person you are becoming tomorrow. Every day, you find small ways to behave like that future confident self.
Okay, so if your future self handles pressure with calm authority, you consciously practice that tone in your next stressful meeting, even if it feels unnatural at first. If they protect their mornings for deep work, you start doing that, even if it's just for 30 minutes. It's about closing that gap between who you are and who you intend to be. That alignment breeds certainty, and certainty fuels confidence.
And to really embed this, use visual rehearsing, maybe as part of your morning routine. See yourself crushing the day's challenges. But crucially, don't just see it, feel it. Feel the confidence, the ease, the posture, the certainty of success.
Why is the feeling part so important?
Because the brain doesn't really know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one, right? If you rehearse success with that emotional intensity, you're essentially creating a future memory. You're pre-paving the neural pathways, making it easier to actually step into that confident state when the real moment comes. Precisely. And underpinning all of this, absolutely essential, is radical self-compassion. Look, unshakable confidence doesn't mean you never feel doubt or never mess up. That's impossible. It means you learn to be kind to yourself through the doubt, especially when you fail. When things go wrong, you talk to yourself like that supportive mentor we discussed, not like a harsh critic. Offer encouragement, analyze gently, then move forward.
That compassionate resilience, it leads to the ultimate realization, the core message of this whole deep dive, doesn't it? You actually don't need anyone else to believe in you. You only need one person. Yourself.
That's it. The moment you truly commit to believing in yourself consistently, deeply, structurally, something amazing happens. The outside world starts to shift to match your internal state. As the saying goes, the world treats you how you teach it to treat you. And that teaching starts with how you treat yourself.
It comes back to that architecture metaphor. You're building your identity, brick by brick. And the bricks aren't external validation or applause. The bricks are self-trust, disciplined action, resilience, internal belief. When that structure is solid, you stand strong. Unshakable. So, to wrap up this deep dive, confidence isn't magic. It's repetition. It's the result of stacking those small wins we talked about. It's about using kind, constructive self-talk, taking brave action even when you're scared, making time for quiet clarity through solitude, and fiercely protecting that private vision.
Yeah, we covered earning your own belief with things like the belief journal, rewiring your brain with mirror talk and the voice flip, building real self-trust through those micro wins, and keeping your proof folder. And of course, detoxing your environment, both people and digital, and upgrading your language.
And remember this, as you go back out there, into a world that might still not get your vision. You were never meant to fit neatly into other people's boxes or timelines. You were meant to build something beyond them.
So the final thought, the provocative idea for you to take away, is this: focus on building, believing, and becoming. Because even when the world does finally catch up, when everyone starts applauding and saying, "Oh, I knew you could do it," you'll know deep down that you never actually needed their belief to get started. You simply became the reason they finally had no choice but to believe.